The man who sat beside Donald Trump in a New York courtroom and watched him get convicted of 34 felony counts is now the top law enforcement officer in the United States. Think about that for a moment. Trump's own personal criminal defense attorney is now the acting attorney general of America, and prosecutors who have spent their careers watching the Justice Department from the inside are issuing some of the most alarming warnings about what this means for American democracy that anyone has heard in a very long time. This story starts where it has to start, with the firing of Pam Bondi. On April 2, 2026, President Trump fired his own Attorney General, Pam Bondi, the second major cabinet-level firing in less than a month after the removal of DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Bondi had been one of Trump's most reliable public allies. She campaigned for him, she defended him, she went on television and amplified his false claims about the 2020 election for years. And when she became Attorney General 14 months ago, she walked into the Justice Department and made clear almost immediately that she was going to use the full weight of America's law enforcement apparatus to serve one man's political agenda. On her very first day in office, Bondi issued a series of memos to DOJ attorneys. One of those memos established what she called a weaponization working group to investigate the prior Trump cases. Another memo announced a policy of zealous advocacy and explicitly threatened discipline and termination for any department attorney who refused to zealously advocate for the president's policies because of their personal political views. On day one, the Justice Department of the United States was put on notice that pushing back on the president's agenda was a fireable offense. What followed was 14 months of sustained institutional damage to the most powerful law enforcement agency on earth. Bondi purged the department of career prosecutors she perceived as insufficiently loyal to Trump. She fired or forced out hundreds of FBI officials and Justice Department lawyers who had worked on January 6th cases or who had been part of the investigations into Trump. She oversaw one of the most aggressive litigation strategies on behalf of a president in American history, filing court action after court action defending Trump's most sweeping executive orders. And she went after Trump's enemies, not because prosecutors built cases from evidence and the facts led somewhere. She went after them because Trump told her to. In September of last year, Trump posted directly to Bondi on Truth Social saying, and these are his exact words, "We cannot delay any longer. It is killing our reputation and credibility. Justice must be served. Now." He was talking specifically about former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Within weeks, the Justice Department secured indictments of both of them. But here is where the story starts to collapse on itself, and where the full scale of the institutional failure becomes undeniable. A federal judge threw out both cases, not because of some technicality buried in a procedural footnote. The judge ruled that the prosecutor who filed the charges, a woman named Lindsay Halligan who had been personally appointed by Trump, was illegally appointed and had no legal authority to bring those cases. In other words, Trump had bypassed the entire normal process of appointing prosecutors precisely because he wanted someone loyal enough to bring the charges he wanted, and that very act of circumventing the process is what got the cases thrown out. Grand juries then refused to bring new mortgage fraud charges against Letitia James. The Comey case became mired in what prosecutors themselves described as thorny evidentiary disputes and statute of limitations problems. An attempt by U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. Jeanine Pirro to indict 6 Democratic lawmakers who had posted a video urging military service members to refuse to follow unlawful orders was rejected by a grand jury. Trump had publicly accused that group of treason. The grand jury of ordinary American citizens looked at the evidence and said no. There was also an attempt to investigate Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. A federal judge reviewing that investigation said the government had produced essentially zero evidence to suspect Powell of a crime and called the legal justifications for the investigation a thin and unsubstantiated pretext to force Powell to cut interest rates. A prosecutor on that very case then conceded in open court that the investigation had not found evidence of a crime. Trump publicly praised Bondi throughout this period. But behind the scenes, sources describe him growing increasingly frustrated and impatient that she was not delivering the results he wanted. The cases were not sticking, the enemies were not going to prison, and Bondi was paying a massive institutional price to pursue prosecutions that were collapsing in courtrooms across the country. In January, Trump publicly lambasted Bondi and a group of U.S. attorneys as weak and ineffective. By April, she was out. Representative Jamie Raskin of Maryland, the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, summarized what had happened at a hearing in February. He looked at Bondi and said, "You have turned the People's Department of Justice into Trump's instrument of revenge." Now Bondi is gone, and the person who has taken her place is, by any objective measure, an even more alarming choice. Todd Blanche is now the acting Attorney General of the United States, and here is what you need to understand about who Todd Blanche is. He was Trump's personal criminal defense attorney, not years ago in some different professional context. He defended Trump in the Manhattan hush money case that ended with Trump being convicted on 34 felony counts. He defended Trump in the federal cases brought by special counsel Jack Smith over Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election and his handling of classified documents after leaving office. He sat beside Trump in courtrooms. He filed the legal briefs arguing Trump was innocent. He was Trump's lawyer in the most personal and legally consequential sense of the word. And now he is the top law enforcement officer in the country, the man responsible for overseeing the independent investigation and prosecution of crimes, including potentially crimes involving people close to Trump, is the same man who spent years as Trump's personal defense attorney. Legal experts and former prosecutors are not holding back about what they think this means. Donna Rocha, a former federal prosecutor, told NBC News that Blanche had shown in his role as Deputy Attorney General that he is willing to act more as Donald Trump's defense attorney than as a justice official who defends his employees, seeks justice, and tries to uphold the rule of law. She said she expected nothing different from him in this elevated role. Stacey Young, a former Justice Department official who founded the group Justice Connection, which monitors administration changes to the department, said Blanche has never stopped seeing himself as Donald Trump's personal lawyer, and that he used his position to illegally fire career employees, smear whistleblowers, and attack the judiciary. She said that time and again he has shown that his guiding star is fealty to the president, not upholding the rule of law. These are not critics on the political fringe. These are people who spent years working inside the Justice Department, who understand exactly what the role of the Attorney General is supposed to be, and who are watching it be fundamentally transformed into something they no longer recognize. The conflict of interest issues surrounding Blanche are also staggering in scope. During his confirmation hearing for Deputy Attorney General, Blanche was asked directly whether he would recuse himself from Justice Department efforts to re-examine the prior work of federal prosecutors on Trump cases where Blanche had been on the other side defending Trump. He declined to commit to a recusal. He said he would not violate his ethical obligations, but he refused to say he would step back from overseeing investigations into matters where he had personally represented the defendant. Every previous Justice Department, including those run by both Democratic and Republican presidents, maintained a principle of distance from political wins. Recusals were common whenever a department lawyer had previously been on the defense side of an investigation. The most famous example is Jeff Sessions, who recused himself from overseeing the Russia investigation because he had been part of the Trump campaign. That recusal ended Sessions' tenure effectively because Trump never forgave him for it. Blanche has made clear from every public appearance that he has no intention of following that model. At the Conservative Political Action Conference just days before Bondi was fired, Blanche stood in front of a crowd of Trump supporters and boasted about the purge of career prosecutors. He said, and this is a direct quote, "There is not a single man or woman at the Department of Justice who had anything to do with those prosecutions." He was talking about the more than 200 people who had been fired or forced out of the FBI and DOJ for working on January 6th cases or the Trump investigations. Within days of that speech, 3 fired FBI employees filed a lawsuit citing Blanche's own CPAC comments as direct evidence that their firings were illegal. The Justice Department did not comment on the lawsuit. Blanche also said something at CPAC that has alarmed voting rights groups and democratic reform advocates across the political spectrum. He said at the conference that he did not understand objections to deploying ICE officers to polling places for the November 2026 midterm elections. Federal law generally prohibits the deployment of armed federal law enforcement at polling locations. This is not a gray area. It is a clear legal prohibition designed to protect voters from intimidation and coercion. And the acting Attorney General of the United States said out loud at a political conference that he does not understand why anyone would object to it. Democrats and voting rights organizations have been raising alarm bells that the Justice Department could be used to interfere in the 2026 midterm elections. They point to a pattern of behavior that includes voter ID legislation being championed by the White House, executive orders on elections that courts have already partially blocked, and now an acting attorney general who has publicly questioned why armed federal agents should not be stationed at voting booths. Former federal prosecutor Jeff Toobin put the broader situation in stark terms on CNN. He said that Bondi's failure to prosecute Trump's enemies should have been, in his words, a cause for relief, not dismissal. That is exactly right. The courts, the grand juries, and the career prosecutors who quietly pushed back were the last guardrails working inside the system, and many of those career prosecutors are now gone. The grand juries still exist, the courts still exist, but the person in charge of deciding what cases to bring, which prosecutors to put on which investigations, and how aggressively to pursue Trump's political opponents is now a man who spent years as Trump's personal lawyer. Here is the broader context that makes this moment so significant. This is now the second major cabinet-level firing in under a month. Trump has burned through multiple attorneys general across his 2 terms. He fired Jeff Sessions. He fired Pam Bondi. Each firing came because the attorney general failed to deliver the political prosecutions Trump wanted. Each replacement has been more closely aligned with Trump personally than the one before. Todd Blanche is not just an ally, he is not just a supporter, he is Trump's personal lawyer, now running the Justice Department. The question that every American who cares about the rule of law should be asking right now is a simple one. When the person overseeing the nation's law enforcement is also the person who was personally, professionally, and financially invested in defending the president from criminal prosecution, can the Justice Department be trusted to enforce the law without fear or favor? Can it be trusted to investigate potential wrongdoing by people close to the White House? Can it be trusted to stay out of elections? People who built their careers inside that department are telling you the answer. They are saying it loudly, clearly, and publicly, and the answer they are giving is no.